All right. Hello, Northside. Welcome back to our Holy Week videos. I don't know. I almost said podcast. It's not really a podcast, but I'm here with Mike Ebrom, and it is Tuesday, April 15th of the Tuesday of Holy Week. So, Mike, how are you doing this morning?
Well, hello, David. I'm doing well today. This is really a great. I was honored when you sent me an email to ask me for an interview, and I actually it was a little bit on the. Can I do this? Can I interview with
Mm,
David Sessions, our preacher? And
yes.
a little bit of my my thought was I don't know if the words I say is something that would. Be impactful, but then some of what you had given me as far as instructions kind of helped me iron that out. That this is more conversational, and I
Yeah,
think I can talk to David in front of a
absolutely.
recording.
Absolutely. Yes. We're just actually going to ignore that this is recording and that people are overhearing our conversations.
Well,
That's really
that's
what we want to do here.
yeah, I think we can pull that off.
All right. I'm really good at ignoring things. I think one of the things I've really liked about Holy Week is it focuses me. It puts my focus on what matters, which
Oh,
is
absolutely.
I'm kind of walking this journey, walking this week with Jesus as he goes to the cross. So, Mike, I asked you to read ahead on Mark 13, and we just want to know, like, as you read that, I'm going to kind of just uh, go over real quick what Mark 13 is about. Jesus has come on Sunday into the city of Jerusalem. Lindsay Perkins led us yesterday really well through the conflict, initial conflict on Monday with the temple and the withering of the fig tree. That fig tree is going to show up again in chapter 13. Mark goes back to it three times, or goes visits. He talks about it three times. But here in chapter 13, we've got the destruction of the temple foretold, the persecution foretold, desolation of sacrilege, the coming of the Son of Man, and then the lesson of the fig tree. So, into that, what jumped out at you? What caught your eye? What'd you notice? And what was interesting to you?
Well, that's kind of a mouthful there,
Yeah.
but well, so in reading the passage again,
Hmm.
I was thinking about there's actually a pronounced transition through all
Mm,
of what Jesus says. And
mm,
and I wanted to also point out um, initially at the start of Mark 13, it's some of the disciples. We don't get all of their names, and we don't even get an
hmm,
exact
hmm,
number when they say,
hmm.
hey, Lord, or Rabbi, look at this place. This is amazing. Look
Yeah.
at these large
Yeah.
stones. And Jesus is like, not one of these stones is going to be left
Hmm.
standing. And
Hmm.
and then you kind of see this distillation of, well, there's a uh, forgive me, but I think in these terms of it's Jesus's homeboys. It's his inner circle, the
Hmm.
circle of trust when he gets Peter, Andrew, James, and John, and they're like,
Hmm.
hey, Lord,
Yeah.
um, now that we've got you away from this other crowd of the rest of the disciples, give us the inside track. And
Right. What's really going on here? Yeah.
when is this really going to happen?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and for me, I always try to relate to where Jesus is, and I always want to insert myself in the story. I
Mhm.
sometimes I don't know. I feel like I relate to the Apostle Peter in a lot of ways. Maybe it's
Mm.
because he's the guy that's quick to pull out a sword and cut off the ear of the high priest. Anyway, maybe he's got a warrior spirit, and maybe that's what
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of keying in on.
Hmm.
But I certainly always draw myself in that inner circle of Jesus's homeboys. Like,
Hmm.
okay, I would want to call Jesus out and be like, "Hey, Lord, can you please like, what's the real deal? When is this actually
Yeah.
happening?" And
Yeah.
so somehow. I relate to those guys a lot,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I want to get that further answer. Well, then I don't I think I'm still relating to them whenever he starts giving them this distilled answer of, but it seems to have changed. It seems to he's now not just talking about this event which he's prophesying on, which was the destruction of the second temple,
Mm-hmm.
which does happen later. It happens after
Mm-hmm.
his death, burial, and resurrection.
Yep.
Um,
About 80, 70.
yeah, about 80
Mm-hmm.
70 was when the Romans came through and
Mm-hmm.
put down that rebellion.
They were
Um,
tired of this stuff. Yeah.
right. And it's sometimes governments do those kind of things,
That's right.
and it's that's where things like, hey, the guy that's up on top of the roof shouldn't go back into
Yeah.
the house. It almost has a
Mm-hmm.
sense of like the house is on fire. Well, what do you run back into the house for? Well, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's when the language about, oh, yeah, if you are here, you better run to the hills. Uh,
Yeah.
it's going to be terrible for the pregnant women and for those who are have nursing babies. This is going to be bad. Um,
Yeah.
and so when that starts getting said, and when it says that this generation, meaning all the people alive today, are not going to all be dead before this happens,
Right. Right.
that that definitely that's a very pointed pin in that
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. This is an escalation, right? The in the
Right,
story, like things are getting serious.
right. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
can look at world events today and things like that, but
Mm-hmm.
if somebody said to you or I that the city where we live, whether it's a monument or whether it's a large building or whether it's something in our neighborhood, that this is going to be destroyed, I
Yeah.
definitely would have all of my antenna up. I definitely would be,
Yeah.
hey, Lord, when is this going to happen? Like, what do
Yeah.
I need to
It's
prepare
almost
for?
like a it's almost like a whiplash moment. Like
Right.
the country boys from Galilee have come to the big city with their teacher and they're like, look at these buildings. This is New York City. This is crazy. And then it's like uh the record scratching, Jesus saying, nah, well, none of this is gonna be here.
Yeah.
Um, so let me ask you this, Mike, because I think you've brought up something so fascinating, so important to the Gospel of Mark is why do you think that's important? Why doesn't Jesus just let them be blissfully ignorant? Uh, the the Mark is written his gospel, we were fairly certain, after the destruction of Jerusalem, after the destruction of the temple. So the people reading the first draft of this are like, yeah, that's what happened. We know that's what happened. So I'm kind of asking you to put two lenses on here. One is both the story itself. Why do you think Jesus just doesn't let his homeboys, if you call them, just be blissfully ignorant? But then also the second lens is for the first audience of Mark's gospel. What would that have done for them? Like what,
Well,
you know?
I, I think a huge portion of that is really in the second transition, because I think that he
Mm,
transitions again. So where I see this is when he talks in verse 21 and following, he's saying,
hmm.
hey, whoa, there's going to be some people that are here to
Yep,
deceive, and there's going to be some
for sure.
false messiahs, and there's
Hmm.
going to be all of these things during that time. There's going
Hmm.
to be a lot that comes down the pipe. But he's saying, I'm saying these things to you so that
Hmm.
nobody leads you astray.
Right,
I'm
right. There's going
saying
to be people
these
that are going to
things to
try to
you,
capitalize on the disaster.
right, so that you
Yep,
can remember and say, wait, he told us all of these
that's
things.
right. That's right.
And,
Yeah.
and so I see there's, in this aspect, there's utility in what
Mm.
he's saying. He's trying to um he's trying to build that, and the only way that he can build that continuity is by telling them something that's going to happen in the future. If they had in their mind, or even if he didn't steal their resolve
Mm-hmm.
through giving them this prophecy,
Mm-hmm.
then the idea could have been, well, yes, he died, and yes, he was buried and resurrected, but what good is it if all the people who know about this
Mm-hmm.
are destroyed?
Yeah.
And I think that he's giving them some information. It's kind of that need to know information.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in my realm of, it may be
Sure.
unclassified, but it's for official use only, and that's where um this is, or law enforcement sensitive for official use only. I get those bulletins all the time, and so that may be stuff that might happen, maybe
Yeah.
stuff that we're afraid would happen, or maybe
Mm.
stuff that we need to go and stop from happening.
Mm.
But in this, Jesus gives the inner circle, that clue that he says,
Mm.
hey, this is so that you don't freak out about it. This is so that you
Sure.
remember this is going to happen. And
Yeah.
so I think the utility of that is to set up that the tribulation they're going to suffer here is the beginning of what becomes the disbursement. And so
Yeah.
that's, I mean, go into all the earth is, we
Yeah.
know that his words about the Great Commission were what
Mm-hmm.
he told that same group of guys. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what exactly is going to compel me to leave my home, or leave where all my family is, or leave?
You may not have a choice.
Right. Well, it becomes more evident when you don't have a
Mm-hmm.
choice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I had to get up and move from San Antonio, Texas, leave my
Yeah.
beloved Texas.
Mm-hmm.
This is my hometown. But if
Right.
I didn't have a hometown to be in, or where my hometown is no longer
Yeah.
livable,
Yeah.
that might change things if I were
Yeah.
there. If that
Right.
was the role that I was filling.
Yeah.
Um, a- and yet at the same time, I see that this is something that he's saying kind of as a transitional piece, because he doesn't stop there. He gives one more
Mm-hmm.
distillation,
Right.
and that's where this passage is like really, it's like being standing on the high dive, basically, of
Mm-hmm.
you know if you jump, you're gonna go deep.
Yeah. Wow. What a good image. Yeah. If you take that step of faith, you're gonna go pretty far down. As you hear this urgency that you just spoke so well about this, Jesus ratcheting up the narrative here. The narrative is getting intense. You you messaged, your career, you referenced your career of getting a text about something that might happen. That feels like the right tension that's happening here.
Yeah.
Jerusalem's getting tense and Jesus is making it tense. So what is, as we're living in the week of Holy Week, as we're reading this, what do you take from that? What is something that Mike Ebrom wants to hold on to, uh, as we live in this story?
Well, the first thing that I think about from our passage here, but it
Mm,
absolutely dives into answering the question, is also in here. Jesus tells these inner sanctum, these guys,
mhm,
which ultimately reflects that he's telling directly me and you.
yeah.
I mean, if
Hmm.
if he were talking to us, he'd be saying the
Hmm.
same. If we
Mm,
came to him at the same time, he'd say these
hmm.
same things.
Hmm.
When he says, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away,"
Yeah.
we have the transcendent God. The
Hmm.
transcendent God
Mm-hmm.
clothed in human form with the same thoughts, fears, feelings, hungers,
Mm-hmm.
hot and cold, um, facing temptations, facing each trial that we would have, and yet he's doing it not of his own accord, but he's actually living here with the purpose that he's going to get to at the end of the week.
Yeah.
And man, that's one that starts me on a bit of an emotional response because
Yeah.
um, he's not doing this because he needed to live here, and he's not doing this. He's not anticipating what's going to happen um, at the end of the week
Mm-hmm.
for his own sake.
Right.
Uh, I look forward into I look forward into those moments on the cross
Mm-hmm.
when he says, "Forgive them; they don't know what they're doing."
Yeah. That's right.
And
Yeah, Mike, that's really well said. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, that's where I end up seeing this entire passage, but where it falls into Holy Week, where it falls into history, how
Mm-hmm.
that history affects my life is one that we know that the story doesn't end there either. It's not
Yeah.
it doesn't end on the cross. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't
Mm-hmm.
end behind a stone door closing a cave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's not, again, none of that was for himself, but
Right.
even then we have this imagery that he tells those close disciples that, hey, in the same way, um, that the son is coming back,
Mm-hmm.
that he's not going to leave us alone either. This is not just
Mm-hmm.
a one and done and then I'm going to press play and autopilot the rest of this earthly realm, and what
Right.
happens. There's some more explanation that he gives the close disciples, that he says it's like a man leaving for a journey,
Yeah.
and he goes. He doesn't. I mean, back in the days before telecommunication, and there was no Zoom, there was
Mm-hmm.
no cell phones or anything like that. When the master of the house left and said, "Take care of things until I get back,"
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
didn't know when he was going to get back. And so
Right.
in that, there's both a call to action, a call for
Mm.
readiness, that
Mm-hmm.
I clearly hear, that yes, he's already done it. He's accomplished it. His grace
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
happened. Um, I receive his grace. I'm the beneficiary of that. And because of that, it calls me to be seeking him, waiting,
Yeah.
anticipating his return, and doing all of
Yeah.
the other things, not because I'm compelled to or because
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing to earn the grace,
Yeah.
but rather seeing that his grace has done these things in me. I can't help but want to be ready. And I can't help but want
Yeah.
to do the things that he's laid out for us.
Yeah.
And for
I'm
me
hearing you saying,
specifically,
yeah, because he entered into the human story, it makes you want to live a better story. It makes
absolutely.
you want to be the modern day chapters of the story that Jesus stepped into, because he stepped into real world, because it's not just a fairy tale, but that he came. And I love the way you're talking about, boy, just the earthiness of the Gospel of Mark, that Jesus felt these things, and Jesus um, was experiencing the tension in that city
Yeah.
this week, And so then I love the way you said it, so that it prepares us, it compels us to be people who are ready. Um, Not because God depends on us, but because the battle's already won. Let's go live that story.
Right.
Let's go live the triumphant
Right.
story. Yeah. Well, my friend, I think you and I could talk all day, but I we unfortunately have to come to a close. Thank you for being a part of this first year of thinking about Holy Week here at Northside and living into that. And thank you for the way that you and your whole family love Northside so well. We are really grateful for the Ebroms.
I appreciate you, David. Thanks for the opportunity, and I certainly am thankful for the brothers and sisters that
Yeah.
we are sharing this moment with,
Yeah.
and thank you for your insights and the things that you share with me.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. And Northside, have a great week. We will see you hopefully a Good Friday. Have a great rest of the week.